Whatever happened to Quicksand? I'm a Gen X kid.
No first gen can harm another first gen.
I mean, I'm an old lady now, but I was born in the early 70s, the good end of the 70s. And I don't know if this is a common thing about Gen X kids, but I was somewhat semi-addicted to television.
Generation X roadkill.
When I was a child. I think it probably had something to do with, Gen X kids, what do they say, they raised themselves?
Even cynical members of Generation X.
I don't know if I agree with that, but, there was a lot of, getting home from school and dad's still out in the paddock because he's a farmer and mum's still not home from work, so you just take care of yourself and you sit yourself in front of the TV and you watch. And I was, like I said, mildly obsessed. Also, it probably didn't help that we had a TV that sporadically worked.
Well, the TV set's broken.
The reception was pretty shit. A lot of times, very fuzzy, snowy picture.
Look, the snow's melting.
I want to say all these shows that I'm going to talk about that had the Quicksand were all in black and white, which is a mix of the TV reception being so bad, but it's probably because our TV was black and white. We had two TVs. We had a colour TV that was a big one that would pick up the ABC, which is like the equivalent of the BBC. To the BBC! We lived in a mountainous region, so, reception was a difficult thing. And then we had a black and white TV on top of that one that would pick up Channel 7. Anyway, addicted to TV. So come summer holidays, I would love going to stay with my grandparents because they had good TV reception. I'm getting way off track.
Shut up and get to the point!
But I will say that a lot of the shows that I grew up watching, that seemed to be a common through line. A big threat to characters on these TV shows, whether it was Tarzan, I used to watch the Banana Split show. And there was a mini show in that I can't remember what it was called, but I'm pretty sure that it was probably somewhat questionable, like...
Cancel?
Swiss Family Robinson, Lost in Space, all that kind of stuff. And there always seemed to be the threat. You could be stumbling through the jungle or wherever you were, walking on a path, and then all of a sudden...
Quicksand.
The ground beneath you would just become this slop that you would sink into and get stuck in quicksand that you could not free yourself from.
Quicksand's a scary mother, man.
Until, inevitably someone threw you a vine or a lasso would turn up, lasso, and you could pull yourself out. The more you struggled in the quicksand, the quicker you sank.
Quicksand!
Now, of course, we all know that's not how quicksand works. It's not deadly. There's a Mythbusters episode which busts it, I guess. And there's an article that I read that I'll link to below that basically asked the same question, whatever happened to quicksand? And why is that not a threat in movies anymore?
It's not quicksand.
But also highlighted that there's a whole fetish about quicksand where people want to sink into it. Let's not talk about that.
Quicksand.
You never see it in movies or anything anymore. It's not really a threat. It just became a cliche, a trope, right? So
Avoid quicksand.
Quicksand is an easy way to suggest that there's peril and there's the sense of the character sinking, whether it's emotionally or actually, in this case, physically. No! It's not exciting enough for people anymore. For me, simple little me, as a child, it was fine. It was terrifying. This article pointed out that if you look at where the walls are closing in, that's just quicksand turned on its side. How cool is that?
Is there a point to this?
But for the purposes of this story, let's pretend that the concept, the construct or deconstruct of quicksand is real. It's perilous. You can go under, you can die.
Hey back, Gilligan, it's quicksand!
And when you're a creative person, the last thing you want is for your idea to disappear.
The car disappeared into quicksand.
Beneath the quicksand that looks a lot like oatmeal.
I drown in this goddamn quicksand.
Throw that idea a vine. So I wanted to do a post, whatever happened to quicksand, that showed quicksand when I was a child being one of the greatest threats to my generation.
X.
Along with army ants, but that's a whole nother subject. And how this idea of quicksand, of thinking you're on solid ground and then suddenly sinking, there's a correlation between that and creativity.
But this is quicksand.
You have an idea at the start and then you're moving along, you start picking away at the idea and then suddenly the foundation that idea is on idea is on. It gets a little weaker the more you like pick apart at it.
15 feet of lethal quicksand.
Starts to sink, you start to... I wanted it to feel like, as you were reading, it should funnel down, right? So
We're inside a giant hourglass.
the sense of being on solid ground as you start, each paragraph would have fewer words until you got down to...
You'll ask me, what?
Let's draw a picture. That'll make it easier. Hang on.
It's a well-known fact that if you struggle in quicksand, you just sink fast.
Like the first paragraph would be a lot of words. Second paragraph would be fewer words. I mean, you get the idea. And I actually assigned number values to it. So this was like 160 words. Each one would be half of that. So 80, 40, and then it was 20, 10, 5. I mean, you can do math.
I can't count that high.
But from 5 on, it was just a 4, 3, 2, 1. So the sense of sinking would be getting, shorter sentences, running out of breath. And then the final one, so you like heads going under, blah, 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 blah. The final one would be, I ended up using the word ad. Because on TV, you always had the cliffhanger just before they were about to go under. An ad.
Advertising doesn't work on me.
So that's the structure. 160, 80, 40, 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that would be 70s TV, actual Quicksand version. Second version would be adult Janine trying to be creative, having the same funnel where got the idea, you're unsuspecting, blah, 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 80. And then the third section where you get to the ad. In the case of the creativity one, I get thrown a banyan vine and we flip it. So this is where the relief starts to come in. You save the idea and you get to the end and hurrah, we've got an idea. I don't know if that made sense, so just in case.
Nah, makes no sense.
And of course, I couldn't make it look like that on Substack, so you had to use theatre of the mind and you probably...
Imagine it.
It sort of worked, but you were just, instead of sinking like this in the quicksand for the piece, you were sinking at an angle, left aligned. But I printed it out so it would look, like this. That's the first section with little Janine. This is the second one with grown-up Janine. And then this is the resolution where it flips.
Beware the ground on which you stand. The floor is quicker than the sand.
How you get your creative idea out of the quicksand is you work at it, you throw it a lifeline, bit of rope, you start to pull it out. The more you pull at it, the more its body emerges, covered in dirt. You give it a pressure wash, hose it down, because you've got to be able to make ideas that can withstand, particularly if you're working in advertising, can withstand criticism. You have to let them sink a bit. You have to be able to figure out what ideas need to be pulled out of pits.
Keep your arms above the surface. When the kid comes back, grab on.
What ideas should be allowed to go under. Sorry, I couldn't save you in time, idea.
Get your big ass out of this goddamn quicksand.
Behold the casting of your newly freed dream. The quicksand of your brain is the cauldron of your earth, and you fish from it daily. Look at the mixing of the metaphors and the just Janineisms that came out there. It was really on fire that morning. Or I should be burned. I don't know. Ideas step casually and fall frequently. That's the job, guys.
It's quicksand.
They're clumsy, falling down all over the place, ideas. Falling head first into quicksand. You gotta grab their ankle, pull them out. I'm gonna go now. I will see you next week. As you're walking through the jungle of creativity this week, look out for quicksand.
The surveyors say they may run into some quicksand up ahead.
But if you fall in, if your ideas fall in, I guess, although technically you would fall in too, don't struggle.
Simply backstroke out of the quicksand.
The more you struggle, the more you're going to sink, guys. Stay calm. Think about how you're going to rescue yourself and your idea from this chundery mush that you're in.
Quicksand is hardening.
And then drag yourself out. You can do it. Can you hear that? It's leaf blower season. Ugh.